Metro security guard David Martinez thought he knew every aspect of urban safety until he noticed the German Shepherd that showed up at Central Station every night at exactly 11 p.m. The dog wasn't a stray looking for food or shelter. He was working, following specific passengers, maintaining protective distances, ensuring safe exits. When David realized what this dog was actually doing, he understood that he'd been witnessing the most effective security patrol he'd ever seen. And it was all volunteer work. Welcome to Dog Vision TV. Before we dive into this incredible story of urban protection, community service, and four-legged heroism, tell me in the comments, what city are you watching from today? And if you believe that sometimes the most dedicated guardians work without uniforms, badges, or paychecks, hit that subscribe button. This story will show you that urban safety can come from the most unexpected protectors. Central Metro Station never truly slept. Even at midnight, when the last official trains had departed and the cleaning crews finished their work, the underground corridors hummed with the movement of late-shift workers, students finishing evening classes, and the occasional traveler catching the first morning connection. David Martinez had been working the graveyard security shift at Central Station for 8 years, long enough to know every sound that echoed through the tiled tunnels, every shadow that shifted under the fluorescent lighting, and every type of person who moved through the transit system after dark. The night shift was different from day duty, quieter but more intense. The passengers who traveled after 11 p.m. carried a different energy, more cautious, more aware of their surroundings, more vulnerable. David understood this. His job wasn't just about checking tickets and monitoring surveillance cameras. He was often the only official presence standing between late-night commuters and the various dangers that urban transit systems could harbor. At 42 years old, David had developed instincts that most security professionals would envy. He could spot potential trouble from across a platform, identify passengers who needed extra attention, and position himself to prevent incidents before they occurred. He took pride in maintaining Central Station as a safe passage for everyone who needed to travel through the city's arteries after dark. But for the past 6 months, David had been noticing something that challenged everything he thought he knew about station security, something that made him question whether he was as observant as he'd always believed. Every night at exactly 11:07 p.m., a German Shepherd would emerge from the North Tunnel entrance, not running, not searching for food, not displaying any of the behaviors David associated with stray animals. The dog moved with purpose, with awareness, with what could only be described as professional focus. David had initially assumed the dog belonged to one of the maintenance workers or cleaning crew members, but after weeks of observation, he realized that the German Shepherd operated independently. No owner called to him, no human seemed responsible for his presence, and yet his behavior was far too sophisticated to be random. The dog had established what appeared to be patrol routes. He would begin at the north entrance, move systematically through the main concourse, check each of the 4 platform levels, and conclude at the south exit. But unlike David's official security rounds, the dog's pattern seemed to adapt based on the passengers present. When the station was nearly empty, the dog would complete his circuit quickly and settle into an observation position near the central information kiosk. But when vulnerable passengers were present, particularly women traveling alone, elderly commuters, or anyone who appeared anxious or disoriented, the dog's behavior would change dramatically. David watched this transformation with growing fascination. The German Shepherd would approach these passengers indirectly, never intrusively, but positioning himself within protective range. If someone seemed lost, he would move closer, If a passenger appeared nervous about waiting alone, he would settle nearby. If someone was walking toward a poorly lit area, he would gently intercede, somehow guiding them toward safer routes. Most remarkably, the dog seemed to have learned the station's security vulnerabilities better than most human guards. He avoided areas with blind spots in the surveillance coverage, steered passengers away from sections where incidents had previously occurred, and maintained vigilance in zones that David knew from experience were potential trouble spots. As weeks passed, David began to document the dog's activities more systematically. What he discovered challenged his understanding of animal intelligence and urban safety protocols. The German Shepherd had developed what could only be described as a sophisticated protection system. He seemed to have memorized the schedules of regular late-night commuters, recognizing individuals who traveled the same routes repeatedly. For these familiar faces, his presence was subtle, unobtrusive. But for first-time visitors or passengers who appeared uncertain about navigation, he would provide more active guidance. David observed the dog escorting nervous passengers from platform to exit, maintaining a protective buffer between them and other travelers who might pose concerns. He watched the dog interrupt potentially dangerous situations by simply positioning himself strategically, his presence alone enough to deter problematic behavior. Most impressively, the German Shepherd had learned to coordinate his activities with the official security presence. When David was monitoring one area of the station, the dog would focus his attention on zones that were temporarily unsupervised. When David was dealing with an incident, the dog would increase his vigilance throughout the rest of the station. The dog never interfered with official security procedures, never created disruptions, never drew attention to himself in ways that would cause problems. He operated like a highly trained professional who understood both his role and his limitations. David began testing the dog's awareness by varying his own patrol patterns. Remarkably, the German Shepherd adapted accordingly, ensuring that combined coverage remained comprehensive. It was as if the dog understood that they were part of the same security team, working toward the same goal of keeping Central Station safe for everyone who passed through. The more David observed, the more he realized that this dog wasn't just wandering the station aimlessly. He was providing security services that complemented and enhanced the official safety protocols. And he was doing it more effectively than many trained human security professionals David had worked with over the years. The night that changed David's understanding of everything happened on a rainy Thursday in late October. Sarah Chen, a nursing student at the City University, was finishing her shift at the hospital and catching the 11:45 p.m. train home to her apartment across town. Sarah had been making this commute for 3 months, but she'd never felt entirely comfortable traveling alone so late at night. The recent news reports about incidents in the transit system had made her especially anxious, though she had no choice but to work the evening shift to accommodate her class schedule. As Sarah descended to Platform 3, she noticed she wasn't alone. 3 men who had been drinking were also heading toward the same platform, and their attention had clearly focused on her. They weren't being overtly aggressive, but their comments and behavior made Sarah increasingly uncomfortable. David was on the opposite side of the station, responding to a minor incident involving a fare dispute. His surveillance monitor showed Platform 3, but from his position, he couldn't immediately assess the developing situation or intervene quickly. That's when the German Shepherd appeared. The dog emerged from the shadows near Platform 3 and positioned himself between Sarah and the 3 men. Not aggressively, not in a way that would escalate the situation, but with a presence that was unmistakably protective. The men, who had been moving closer to Sarah, stopped their approach. The dog remained calm but alert, his positioning clear. Anyone who wanted to bother Sarah would have to go through him first. The men, perhaps recognizing that the situation had changed, decided to wait for a different train car. When Sarah's train arrived, the German Shepherd escorted her to the door, ensured she boarded safely, and remained on the platform until the train departed. Only then did he resume his normal patrol pattern. David watched this entire interaction through the security cameras and later reviewed the footage multiple times. What he saw was a textbook example of protective intervention, professional, measured, and completely effective. The dog had assessed a potentially dangerous situation, inserted himself as a deterrent, and ensured a safe outcome without escalating tensions or creating additional problems. After witnessing the Platform 3 incident, David knew he needed to understand more about this remarkable dog. He began staying after his official shift to observe the animal's behavior more closely, and what he discovered was even more extraordinary than he'd imagined. The German Shepherd's protective services extended far beyond simple presence. David observed the dog guiding disoriented passengers to correct platforms, alerting sleeping commuters before they missed their stops, and even leading lost individuals to information desks or security stations. The dog had somehow learned the station's layout better than most employees. He knew which escalators were frequently out of service, which routes provided the safest passage between platforms, and which areas should be avoided during certain hours. This wasn't information that could be learned casually. It represented months of careful observation and analysis. David began asking other transit workers about the dog. The maintenance crew was familiar with him, describing him as the station dog who keeps people safe. The cleaning staff reported that he never interfered with their work, but seemed to appreciate their presence as additional security during vulnerable late-night hours. Most telling were the comments from regular late-night commuters. Several passengers mentioned feeling safer when the guardian dog was visible in the station. Women traveling alone specifically noted that his presence provided comfort and reassurance during times when they felt most vulnerable. David learned that some passengers had begun timing their travels to coincide with the dog's known schedule. Late shift workers, particularly those traveling alone, would arrive at the station around 11 p.m., knowing that the German Shepherd would be beginning his protective rounds. The dog had essentially become an unofficial but widely recognized part of the station's security infrastructure. Passengers trusted him, employees appreciated him, and his effectiveness at preventing incidents was becoming legendary among the transit community. David realized that what he'd been witnessing wasn't just remarkable animal behavior. It was a new model for urban safety, one that combined official security protocols with community-based protection services. David made a decision that would extend far beyond his individual security duties. He documented the German Shepherd's activities in his official incident reports, presenting the information to his supervisors as evidence of an innovative community safety resource that deserved formal recognition and support. Initially, transit authority management was skeptical. Allowing an unofficial animal to operate in the station system created potential liability issues and challenged established policies about pets in public transportation facilities. But David's documentation was compelling. He provided security camera footage showing the dog's protective interventions, testimonials from passengers who had benefited from his presence, and statistical analysis demonstrating that incidents in areas where the dog regularly patrolled had decreased significantly over the past 6 months. Dr. Jennifer Walsh, a veterinary behaviorist specializing in working dogs, was brought in to assess the situation. After observing the German Shepherd for several nights, she confirmed that his behavior demonstrated professional-level protective instincts and training quality, situational awareness. This dog has essentially trained himself to be a security animal, Dr. Walsh reported. His ability to read human behavior, assess threats, and provide appropriate protective responses is comparable to what we see in professionally trained guard dogs. But more importantly, he's developed these skills specifically for urban transit environments. The Transit Authority faced a unique decision: how to acknowledge and support an animal who was already providing valuable public safety services without formal authorization or compensation. The solution they developed would become a model for other cities facing similar situations. Rather than attempting to remove or restrict the dog's activities, they created an unofficial accommodation that allowed him to continue his protective work while ensuring appropriate oversight and support. The German Shepherd, who David had begun calling Central after the station where he worked, became the first unofficial therapy and protection animal in the city's transit system. While he wasn't formally employed or trained as a service dog, the Transit Authority developed policies that recognized his valuable contributions to passenger safety. Dr. Walsh worked with David to establish protocols that would support Central's work while ensuring that his activities complemented rather than complicated official security procedures. Central received a basic health examination and vaccination updates funded by donations from grateful passengers and transit employees. A small identification tag was created for Central, not as an official credential, but as a way for passengers and staff to recognize him as a known and approved presence in the station. The tag read simply, Central, Community Guardian, Central Metro Station. David's role evolved as well. He became Central's informal handler and advocate, learning to coordinate security activities with the dog's natural protective instincts. The partnership between human and canine security created a more comprehensive safety system than either could provide alone. The collaboration extended beyond just David and Central. Other late-shift employees learned to work with Central's protective presence, understanding that his vigilance enhanced their ability to maintain a safe environment for all passengers. Transit Authority data showed measurable improvements in passenger safety and satisfaction, following Central's recognition as a community guardian. Incidents requiring security intervention decreased, passenger complaints about feeling unsafe during late-night hours dropped significantly, and ridership during evening hours actually increased as word spread about the station's unique protective services. Central's story began attracting attention from urban safety experts and animal behavior researchers. His self-directed development of protective skills and his integration into an official security system represented a new model for community-based safety initiatives. Central's success led to broader conversations about urban safety, community protection, and the role that animals could play in creating safer public spaces. Dr. Walsh began studying Central's behavior as part of a research project on natural protective instincts in urban environments. The research revealed that Central's effectiveness came from his unique combination of animal instincts and learned behaviors. His natural protective drives had been refined through months of observation and experience in the station environment, creating specialized skills that were perfectly adapted to urban transit safety needs. David became an advocate for innovative approaches to public safety, speaking at security conferences about the potential for animal-assisted community protection. His partnership with Central demonstrated that effective safety systems could emerge from unexpected collaborations between official resources and community assets. The story inspired other cities to examine how they might better utilize natural community resources, whether animal or human, to enhance public safety systems. Central's model showed that protection services didn't always need to be formally trained or officially employed to be valuable and effective. Most importantly, Central's presence had transformed the late-night atmosphere at Central Metro Station. Passengers reported feeling more secure. Employees took pride in their unique community guardian, and the station became known throughout the transit system as a model of innovative safety practices. The collaboration between David and Central also highlighted the importance of individual initiative in community safety. David's willingness to recognize, document, and advocate for Central's contributions had transformed a remarkable animal behavior into a sustainable community benefit. 2 years after David first noticed Central's protective activities, the German Shepherd had become a beloved and integral part of Central Metro Station's identity. His presence was featured in transit authority safety materials, and his story was used to promote the idea that community safety was everyone's responsibility. Central's influence extended beyond the station itself. His example inspired the development of community guardian programs in other public spaces throughout the city. Parks, libraries, and shopping areas began recognizing and supporting animals and individuals who naturally took on protective roles for vulnerable community members. The partnership between David and Central had evolved into a comprehensive model for integrating natural community assets into official safety systems. Their collaboration was studied by urban planners, security professionals, and animal behaviorists as an example of how innovative thinking could improve public safety outcomes. Most significantly, Central's work had created measurable improvements in urban safety for the demographic that needed it most, people traveling alone during vulnerable hours. His protective presence had enabled countless individuals, particularly women, elderly passengers, and nervous travelers, to use public transportation with greater confidence and security. David's career had been transformed as well. His recognition of Central's value and his advocacy for innovative safety approaches had established him as a leader in community-based security practices. He continued working at Central Station, but now also consulted with other transit systems interested in developing similar programs. Central continued his nightly rounds, maintaining the same professional focus and protective instincts that had first captured David's attention. But now his work was recognized, supported, and celebrated by an entire community that understood his value. Every night at 11:07 p.m. Central still emerges from the North Tunnel entrance of Central Metro Station. His routine remains consistent: systematic patrol routes, adaptive behavior based on passenger needs, and unwavering dedication to ensuring safe passage for everyone who travels through his domain. David still works the graveyard shift, now with official recognition of his innovative partnership with Central. Together, they've created a security system that combines human authority and training with canine instincts and dedication, providing comprehensive protection that neither could achieve alone. The late-night atmosphere at Central Station has been permanently transformed. Passengers speak of feeling safer, employees take pride in their unique community asset, and Central has become a symbol of how unexpected partnerships can create positive change in urban environments. Central's story had proven that community safety could emerge from the most unlikely sources, that protective instincts could develop naturally in response to community needs, and that sometimes the most effective security work was performed by those who asked for nothing in return except the opportunity to serve. His nightly presence continues to provide comfort to nervous travelers, protection for vulnerable passengers, and peace of mind for everyone who depends on safe passage through the urban transit system. Central had appointed himself as guardian of Central Station, and the entire community had benefited from his dedication. David's willingness to recognize, document, and advocate for Central's contributions had transformed remarkable animal behavior into a sustainable community benefit. Their partnership demonstrated that innovation in public safety could come from paying attention to natural community assets and finding ways to support and enhance their contributions. Central didn't need a badge, a uniform, or a paycheck to recognize that people needed protection. He didn't need training to understand that vulnerable passengers required a guardian. He simply saw a need in his community and appointed himself to meet it, one protective patrol at a time. Have you noticed these community guardians in your city? The individuals, human or animal, who naturally take on protective roles for others? The unofficial security presence that makes public spaces feel safer? Share their story in the comments below. Subscribe to Dog Vision TV for more incredible stories of dogs who serve their communities without asking for anything in return. These four-legged guardians remind us that the most dedicated protection often comes from those who volunteer for the responsibility. And remember, community safety is everyone's job. Sometimes the most effective guardian is the one who simply chooses to care, stay alert, and be present when others need protection most.